Peace and blessings, family. Your brother, your friend, your dietitian, back again for another installment. I'm out here getting some sun, just exercise, exercise daily, love yourself daily. Um, I want to talk again about books that have changed my life. So, last time I talked about the autobiography of Malcolm X. It's a phenomenal work. The next book I want to discuss is The Miseducation of the Negro. I came across this book because I was in like a Black Student Union, or I was at a regional Black Student Union meeting where all the Black Student Unions in the area met up. It was in high school, and I met a brother there he was an old elder man, and he was very eloquent and he was very knowledgeable. And at this time, I was doing like knowledge seeking and trying to learn more. And so at that time, I learned a little bit about history and different things about my own people's history, the nation's history. But I came to him and I started asking him questions, and I asked him if he had any book recommendations, and he proceeded to recommend The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, and that's how that started, and that's how I opened that Pandora's box. And when I started off with The Miseducation of the Negro, it's a very simple read. It's a smooth read. Carter G. Woodson was a master historian. He actually is the founder of Black History Week, but later on it turned into and transformed into Black History Month. He, I believe, he founded the Journal of Negro History, I believe, or it wasn't Negro Journal of Negro Education, but Journal of Negro History, I believe. I'm not certain, but I believe he did. And he did a lot of preliminary works post slavery, post the peculiar institution, to basically document our history and world history, because the so-called Negro history is a part of the history of humanity. So he did a lot of work doing that. But the book itself was masterful for me, and it changed my life, because in the book he covers many topics, but he covers how someone can be miseducated. And that concept had never occurred to me before that. I never thought that someone or an institution or a philosophy or some type of fundamentalism or some type of ideology would be to miseducate someone else or miseducate a group of people. And so he broke down how one can be miseducated. So he talked about how you could be miseducated through the education through society, so what society teaches you. So he talks about how the Negro at that time was always shown as a buffoon, a criminal, someone to be despised, an outcast, somebody that is on the outskirts of society, etc. And those people who grow up in that society begin to uptake that social miseducation. So that really started blowing my mind, because I'm like, wait a minute, so somebody could be basically a psychological warfare. Somebody could set up an education system to miseducate you. Now, educate comes from educari, and that means to, draw out and take out. So true education really is taking out the best of you and taking out that inherent greatness, that inherent knowledge that you already have, and turning that into something great, utilizing that, refining that, expressing that, developing that. And so when you miseducate, you basically don't allow them to take out, or don't allow someone to take out that innate greatness, that innate power. You don't allow someone to develop that. And so he also went into the history classes, and how the Negro's history was actually wiped out and cleared out, so that he wouldn't find himself referred to in history in any great way. Therefore, it would affect his self-esteem. And he also mentioned about how it affected the household, how the parents reinforced what was taught in the ideologies that were taught in in school and in the church and society. So he taught that basically there are two types of education: one that a man receives and one that a man is given, and the second type is one that man gives himself. And so when I read him and I read the Miseducation of the Negro, I realized that there are two types of educations: that I give myself, and that is given to me by others. And not always is someone trying to miseducate you, but the best education is a self-education. I don't remember who said that, if that was Elijah Muhammad or if that was Carter G. Woodson, or who said that, but the best education is self-education. And so that immediately changed my mind state. I began to study and began to prove things for myself. So that was one of the main reasons that book changed my life. It began to make me aware of the fact that people are intentionally miseducating another people, or that someone can be intentionally miseducated. And this isn't just Negro versus so-called white or anything like that. You have to extrapolate principles. When you study, always extrapolate principles. So I realized that this could happen to anyone. You can miseducate anybody. You can teach a woman that she's inferior to a man. You could teach one brother that he's a scholar while teaching the other brother that he's an athlete. Or you can teach, one man and one race that they're inferior and one that they're superior. So he talked about how in all the school systems, in all the textbooks and curriculums, the Negro finds himself in an inferior position. He finds himself inadequate. He finds himself without a history, without civilization. In religion, he finds himself without civilization. In government, he finds himself without development and refinement. And so this begins to affect his self-esteem. He said that if you teach a man that he is inferior, then you don't have to worry about him choosing the back door. He'll find the back door. And if there is no back door, he'll build one. He said that if you can control a man's mind, you don't have to control his body. And so that was another thing that he introduced to me, was whose thoughts are you thinking? I began to realize that I was thinking and taking upon other people's thoughts, other people's ideas. So when he said, if you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his body, that really blew my mind, and it made me realize that, wait a minute, someone could be controlling my thoughts or directing my thoughts. And so that's really when things kind of changed with the Carter G. Woodson, and he opened up my eyes to the miseducation that was going on, and the re-education that I could do for myself. So that's one of the main texts, tomes, books that really changed my life and changed the game. I highly recommend it. And he also did a lot of other books that are out, and did a lot of other histories. Basically, the Miseducation of the Negro it was just fire. Like I said, if you control a man's mind, you don't have to control his body. If you control a man's mind, you don't have to control his body. If you miseducate him, you don't have to worry about which direction he's going to go in, because he's always going to find himself find the inferior position. He's always going to find the back door. There's two types of education: one that you're given and one that you give yourself. And that there are actual institutions that function to miseducate, to disempower, to disenfranchise, and in order to re-enfranchise, give ourselves the ability to have power, we have to take control of our lives. And that's what I learned from the Miseducation of the Negro. Excellent book. So, your brother, your friend, your dietitian, back again for another installment. For my longtime followers, I've been talking about nutrition and diet, fasting from the beginning. I've been getting into traveling. I've been getting into, organic agriculture with my Vandana Shiva videos, more science, all kind of topics. The thing is, here I want to dive deep into, different topics that I'm interested in. I know that you all have different interests, varied interests, and I'm just gonna put up what comes to my heart, and I want to share. So just like I did back in the first videos, I want to share, provoke thought, and build. We got some other books coming up in the pipeline, but we'll talk about those later. All right, peace.